What is the point of it?
It's from this soldier who shot the other.
Okay, so what speaker is, you started first person speaker. Okay, what else do we know about our speaker?
He was a soldier.
Okay, give me something else. Well, do we know that for sure based just on the given poem? Okay, all right, so because like, you know, if you bring in the outside history, maybe, but at this point, we're just looking at what's there.
We only have the date.
Right, 1902, that is correct, okay?
I guess he's like a faceless person in the crowd. Like he could almost be representing like any soldier killing
Like this
a
probably
different
happened
soldier.
to a lot of just nameless
Yeah.
men.
Very good, okay? So you have then, what have we called that in the past? What have we called that?
One representing the collaborative.
Collective. But
Collective.
yes, very good. Okay, one representing the collective. Excellent. Now, we know we have a first person speaker. And literally, guys, what's he doing? Just, what is this?
It's just not a bar. It's not a story.
It's not at a bar. What's he telling?
He's telling the story.
He's telling a story. Okay? He's telling a story. Now, what literary device is that? What do we have here? First person speaker who is a soldier telling a story about what he went through. What literary device do we have here?
The monologue.
What kind? Dramatic monologue. Write that down, okay? So yeah, you've got a dramatic monologue here. Now, I need somebody to define for me what that means. What is a dramatic monologue? What does the poet do? You gotta start there.
They take on the persona.
When the poet takes on the persona and does what? Tells us.
Create. Yeah, like they create a character and kind of like speaks through that voice.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, tells a story. Okay, what other poems have we done that are dramatic monologues?
Pluto.
Definitely Pluto, Shooting Stars, very good. So since those two are Duffy and this one is Hardy, that's a good comparative thing right there. Okay, so under speaker we can also add dramatic monologue. Okay, all right. Yeah, let's talk about title right now. Let's talk about title. What do you notice first of all?
The man he killed.
It's not good.
Yeah.
What do we expect?
The man.
Man he killed.
Okay, so then we gotta say, all right, what's the point of changing or not writing I?
To show the
I guess you basically
One.
don't know that person.
anonymity of the person, and as
You
well
could like apply
how
for
it's
it.
everyone.
Okay, so anonymity.
It could
So that could apply
for a lot of different people.
to the many, to the collective. Okay, good. There's one. All right, what else?
Could he also be trying to distance himself from this side of him that is a murderer?
Yes, very much so. So, in that case, what big idea should we have in our box? Based on what you just... Proximity and distance, okay? So if he, in the title, is attempting to distance himself from his own actions, you've already mentioned the idea that he's trying to justify, right? Does he do it? Does he justify himself?
No,
No.
Not really.
but he
Okay.
doesn't try to.
At least he tries. Yes, he tries.
No, I don't think he.
You don't think so?
I think
I
he,
think
at first he
justifies-
does, but then
He
he.
justifies it to himself, but like that's what he. I personally think he justifies it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he tries to like. That's not the point of his poem to just try and justify.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in the back burner. Let's think about that. So then, anything else with the title? Anything else with title?
The man's also just another man.
Good. Okay. So there, more anonymity. It could be anyone. What's the next box?
Structure.
Structure. Let's talk about structure. One thing you've already been given. What, dramatic monologue would fit there. Very good. That also speaks to voice. What about structure? What about the structure here? What is it? What do you see?
5 quatrains in a rhyming pattern of ABAB.
Okay. And let's also look at stanza 1.
Oh yeah, it's all in it's all like quotes. It's all.
Stanza 5. Let's finish the question first. I think we're going to get there. Okay. What do you see happening in stanza 1 and stanza 5?
In the like there's frame in the context of it.
There's frame. Okay. There is a frame here. So what's looking at the first stanza? What tense is it? What do you call that, language study peoples? If we had, then I would have.
Isn't the participle the past?
Yeah.
Or what about conditional? Isn't
Isn't condition like I would have? Or
well,
I
basically,
would do this?
we should have set us down to,
Yeah.
okay? If these had been the circumstances, then this would have happened, okay? Look at the last one.
You would.
Same concept. But each of those stanzas represents what he wishes had happened, what he wanted to happen.
So it's dream versus
Everything in between is what?
What actually?
What actually happened. Good. So adding to your big idea box.
1 and 5.
So you've got there in your big idea box, call it appearance versus reality. Call it what it should be versus what it is. Same thing. Okay? So in essence, the frame is what he would have it be. And the 3 stanzas inside are what it is, which is quite grim for him. Okay? There's one more title thing that I'm going to bring up.
Title or structure?
Title. I'm backtracking a little bit because I just now, I forgot to tell you, so I'm going to tell you now. Think about this. Who dies in the poem?
A man.
You could argue, I think, both ways.
Why?
I mean, I guess you could say literally the person that the speaker shot
Correct.
died.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could say almost kind of like the speaker's morals died when he shot the person because, as in the poem, under other circumstances he wouldn't have killed him.
Right. So let's think about that. The man he killed, could the he refer to his enemy in that I am now dead in some way?
Yeah.
Okay, like he killed me. Does that make sense? In a fashion.
Could you also like kind of use that same way to apply it? Like if he is distancing himself, he's saying that in a sense he killed a part of himself.
Yes,
as well.
yes, good. In doing this, I've killed a part of my own self. Yes, you could look at it that way, definitely. Okay, so, yeah, that was kind of a trick question. Structurally, what else? What does the rhyme scheme do for it? You mentioned rhyme scheme. What does it do for it? Let's think about that. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we would have sat us down to write many a nibberkin. But
It
sort of
gives,
widens.
A story.
it gives it speed, and it also gives it less seriousness.
okay,
It's like a distancing.
it does take away from the serious nature of the poem because it has that kind of sing-song quality. Okay, so be it. That's fine. Now let's tie that to a big idea. If I'm having trouble justifying my actions and I don't necessarily succeed in doing so because I sound really confused, especially
Maybe it's kind
Here.
of like,
what am I doing?
it's almost like an elongated euphemism.
Okay.
Kind of, like by using the rhyming pattern, it's making the whole action seem less bad than it actually is.
Yes, because to me it sounds like he has a hard time dealing with it, okay? And yes, he distances himself from his actions in telling his story with this relatively simplistic rhyme scheme. It does come off kind of sing-songy because look, I mean, there are, so we're supposed to read with the punctuation. There's a pause almost at the end of every line because of the comma, okay? So, yeah, good. Structurally, what else? What? Yeah.
The quotation marks, or are we not getting them?
Yeah. That's good. Let's go there now.
So the quotation marks, I noticed that each stanza, it opens a quote, but it doesn't close except for the last.
There. Okay. So each stanza is opened with a quotation. Anybody want to venture an explanation for that?
Say something follows that, but it's just not said.
Could be, yes. And keep it simple. What do quotation marks indicate? Dialogue. Okay? So he's telling his story. Maybe he's telling it to himself. Maybe he's telling it to somebody else at a bar. We don't know. Maybe he's telling it to us. But he's saying it. Okay? So you've got the concept of voice there. That the quotation marks also help speak to voice, and you could add that to dramatic monologue. Okay?
It
Yeah.
also showed that like the story is not really like finished. He's not telling us the whole story.
Yes. Okay. And so I think, I don't want to make a whole lot out of the quotation marks, but I think in essence, any and all of those explanations are fitting. You don't want to spend too much time with that because there's so much more meat elsewhere. Okay? But if you mention or if you notice, that's great. What's the next thing on the list? Devices. Tell you what, we're going to skip that part and go to big ideas. Okay? Because the devices are going to come in between. All right? Big ideas. What big ideas are here?
Effects of war.
Okay, let's talk about effects of war, okay? Effects of war on whom?
And everyone that participates.
Yeah,
Because
on
the-
the people who get killed because
They
like
die.
he entered into this war just thinking it would be a small thing, but then he ended up losing his life for it. And
Okay,
this other soldier who killed him,
Became part of the lost
like
generation.
it's affected
kind
him.
of.
Yeah, that's that.
All right. So if you think about the physical effects, the emotional effects, all right, I think one of the keys here is individual. Can you put individual and collective in big idea here? Could this be said by just about any of them? Could the man on the other end, the one staring me, that shot at me, could that be representative of the any or the many?
Yeah.
Okay, so good. There's another big idea. Give me another one. What else? We got effects of war.
Proximity.
We got.
Proximity and distance.
All right, let's go there. Let's talk about proximity and distance. So in proximity and distance, we can do literal and figurative. Where is that in the poem? Where is let's go literal first because it's easy. Literal proximity. Point to the text.
When they're face to face.
Right here. Ranged as infantry and staring face to face. Okay? Doesn't get much closer than that. Proximity, too, would have happened in the first, in the last, yeah?
By subordination.
Yeah, because we would have sat us down together. That would have been a literal proximity, okay? What about distance? Is there literal distance here?
Well, now he's not next to the dead
Okay, all right. I shot at him as he at me and killed him in his place. So I'm still here, and he literally is not. If you talk about him being the enemy, that could be also part of the distance. What about emotional proximity and emotional distance? Let's up the stakes a little bit.
Just like not knowing him, like at all, like whatsoever, kind of make like a faceless person. He was just kind of told he was the enemy, so he just kind of killed him.
Okay, so if we think about this stanza in particular, number 4. Stanza number 4, what is our speaker giving his, quote, enemy? What's he giving him?
The reason why.
The reason why his enemy, quote, enlisted, which is
He's
what?
not justifying it though.
Hold on. Which is what? What is the reason?
Pretty much the same reason why he.
That's the key. That's the key. What emotional proximity do they share? Their reasons for joining. Thought he'd list offhand like just as I. Did this speaker have was he glory seeking? No. Was he fighting for God and country? Okay, no, none of these things. He did it why? Was out of work and sold his traps. No other reason why. Why did he do it?
He needed the money.
He needed the money. Okay? And so he gives this, quote, enemy a similar history. He's giving him a history that he really doesn't know. So he's personalizing the enemy. That brings them closer. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That means the proximity there. Okay? The fact that he creates a history for his supposed enemy. Okay? Now let's talk distance. Figurative distance. Figurative emotional distance. What's the opposite? We kind of already said it, just reinforcing.
It's like he's trying to forget the memory and block it out.
Good. Okay? He's trying to block it. What else? Come up with an excuse why it happened. Okay.
Trying to take away the blame from himself.
Good. Trying to get rid of that burden of blame. Okay. Nice. That then would create distance. Emotional distance. Figurative distance, if you will. Where are the people who make the decisions?
In safety.
Good. They are very distant, literally, from the front lines.
And figuratively.
Okay? And so let's think about that. What line points to those people? Where are the powers that be here?
In safety.
Yes, but
They're far, like,
where in the poem? But ranged as infantry. Who does that? Who does the arranging?
The general.
Yes. Okay. So, in essence, too, the only reason that we're close together, staring face to face, is because someone else put us there. Okay? So that makes the foot soldier, the infantry, distant from the powers that be. Because they're the ones making the choice, not the soldiers themselves. Does that, yeah?
Could
Okay.
that also be another mechanism for him to kind of, like, accept, like, kind of just not think of what he did as bad because he's saying someone else put us
Somebody else
there.
put me here.
So it's
Exactly.
not just me. Like,
Good. Okay. Good. All right. Other big ideas.
Dreams versus reality.
Yes, appearance versus reality, or dream versus reality. This is my dream to write many a nipperkin. Okay. Good. That's my dream, but that's not the reality of the situation. Okay. Got another big idea? Anyone?
Justifying like death and war.
Okay, all right. Justification for war. Does this one do it or not? Which side does Hardy come down on in this one?
Anti-war.
Good. It is critical. It is subtle, but it is still critical. Critical of war. He has not gone pro-propaganda yet. At age 74, he actually did become an employee of the British government writing pro-war propaganda poetry. Okay? Yeah, I know. So we're not there yet, but in essence right now, we see that subtle critique, okay? Any other big ideas that we haven't talked about? Look at your list, those of you who came prepared. Look at your list.
Just guilt.
Guilt here is a huge idea, okay? Yes, all right? And here's the thing, too. The big ideas that you see in this poem, keep in mind, it is an individual poem. You don't have to find it in other ones. We may get there, okay? So if you see that, good, write it down.
Did you say one of the many?
Individual, collective, same concept. Same concept. Call it something familiar so that when you know, it's easier for you to then pair it with something else. Okay? So yes, one in the many, individual, collective, same kind of concept. What about innocence? Somebody make that work.
Well, like, you don't, this is kind of unpersonalized, so you don't know how old he was, but he could have been a boy who
Okay.
went to war, and then now he's already killed a man, and he, like, maybe isn't even 18 or something.
Okay.
So it could be a loss of innocence.
But as soon as you
Good.
kill someone,
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
there's
could
a
have been
different
a
type of
man,
innocence you
like,
lose.
once
Doesn't
you
matter if
lose
he's a
someone,
man or
like,
a
no one
child.
just goes out.
Good. All right. So yeah, let's think about that. What has he lost as a result of killing someone else?
It's like,
He's lost his innocence. Okay, good.
That ties back to like him dying, like his like morals and
Yeah.
stuff.
His innocence is dead.
Yes, it is. And there's no going back. Okay. And who's to say that the man he killed wasn't also innocent? Can you point to
Oh, yeah.
ranged as infantry? I was put here. I didn't choose.
So maybe the other man didn't choose as well.
Okay. I was out of work, had sold my traps, no other reason why. The reason I'm here in this uniform is because I had a hard time. I needed the money.
It doesn't mean that for the other person it's not the same thing.
Right.
Like, he
they
didn't do
probably
anything he
weren't
didn't
going into
deserve for
war
getting
trying to kill
killed.
people.
Right. That's what I'm talking about, okay? You take that concept and you spin it to what kind of fits, okay? So that innocence then works, all right? That loss of innocence, the attempt in a way to regain it here with his justification, right? Okay? Any other big ideas? Are y'all ready to dive in? Albus, has everything on your list been said? Do you have anything on your list that's not been said? Okay. I'm trying. All right. So let's take a look at stanza 1. Okay? Stanza 1. What did we say about the tense here?
It's conditional.
All right. So if then, you have an if then situation. Okay? Had he and I but met, which means what?
They didn't.
We did.
They're
Okay?
strangers.
All right. Yes, we remain strangers. There's some more distance for you in that whole scenario. By some old ancient inn. What word should we pick out? Old and
ancient.
ancient. I mean, those are kind of the same thing. Are they?
Ancient is
Different degrees.
yeah, the degrees and also different caliber.
Okay. All right. Let's think about that. What's in the context of this? What would an inn have been?
Something like a home.
It's like a place of
It would be
socialize.
far more homely. Because think of this, okay? It would have been a public house. That's where the word pub comes from. Y'all know that, right? Okay? Well, if you didn't, now you do. All right? So it would have been a public house. What did people do?
Drink and
Drink and
socialize.
talk.
They met, they talked, they socialized. And yes, most of the time it was over a drink. Okay?
Like a
So you
party.
have all these people meeting at a crossroads. Okay? Meeting at an inn. What are they seeking at this old ancient inn? Think about, okay, so let me ask this question. If it's an old ancient inn, you tell me, what is the atmosphere, what is the ambiance at that place?
Homely.
Homely?
Comfortable.
Comfortable, good, write that down. What else?
You're going to your grandma's house.
And what feelings accompany that? What feelings accompany that?
Like warm.
Just like happiness and like
Warm.
good memories.
Happiness,
Safety.
safety, okay? Familiarity, all right? If you're saying grandma's house, right? You know that you're gonna get, you know, you'll have a warm place to stay, somewhere dry, something, they're gonna feed you, and you're gonna meet other people very similar to yourself, okay? This old ancient inn has that sort of ambiance, if you will, which would have put them in a familiar place where they could have known each other.
Wouldn't old and ancient also be used as the opposite, like as distance, like Saying it was a long time ago.
Good. Now let's think figuratively. Okay? If you think figuratively, an old ancient inn, I can no longer do that because here I am on the battlefield. So, good. You could think about that kind of distance from a time period. Okay? Good. Yes. We should have sat us. What kind of language is this? What do we call that? What's the literary device? We should have sat us down to wet right many a nipperkin. Who says that? Really? What do we call that?
Experience or something?
Colloquialism?
Colloquial.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What's a colloquialism?
It's like slang.
Yeah. Okay. It's slang or it's relatively casual. This is in a casual vernacular. Are there any big words here? Not really. Okay, to us, nipperkin is a big word because we didn't know what it was. You had to look it up, didn't you?
Yep.
What does it mean?
It's basically something that holds liquor in it.
Yeah. Today, they'd say, let's have a pint, right? So, really kind of the same thing. So, colloquialism, how does that colloquialism help with the part we just got through talking about this old ancient
It
inn?
shows a homeliness at the end.
Good. Anyone else? The colloquialism would reflect a setting, a locale. Because, guys, seriously, do we say this word anymore? Let's wet nipperkin.
Oh, I guess
That sounds like you're cursing almost, or doing something that you perhaps shouldn't be. Okay, so nowadays we don't say this, right? So it also dates.
It shows the ancientness.
Good. Okay, it dates our speaker to a particular time and place.
Also,
All right.
like in Pluto when he was referring to the half.
The half pennies, very good, nice. Okay, so right many a nipperkin. You know, you can just imagine some stodgy British voice saying that. Okay, rather than hey, let's go have a beer. Right? So it does locale, date, setting. All right. What's right many? Right many.
A lot.
A lot. Okay. So in thinking about what that means, what's implied? Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we would have sat us down to wet right many a nipperkin. All in one day? Is it all in one day? What might then we have?
We could have become
We could have become friends, and this could have been a ritual. It could have been something that we did often, right many.
And like they had a lot of things in common, so they could talk about a lot of things.
There you go. Lots of commonalities. And he's doing that from the very beginning. Then we get but. And at this point we say, uh-oh. We know that a tone shift is coming. But ranged as infantry. All right, we've talked a little bit about this already, but just in case you haven't written it down, ranged as infantry. You could take this as a double entendre.
Yeah.
Okay? Meaning arranged, which we've already talked about, right? Where somebody else is in power saying, you will go here and fight. You will go here. You will go here, as in, you know, the powers that be. Arranged. But also ranged as infantry. Give me something else with the word range.
Range the land is to like scour it.
Good. Keep going. Imagine it. What does it look like? Ranged as infantry.
You're like walking with your gear across the land.
Uh-huh.
Or like they're out of range with the other oncoming.
Good. Okay. Is this guerrilla warfare?
I don't think so.
No, I think it was like formation.
Correct. Okay.
The bow.
Well, I'm just like, yeah, thinking about ranged. If you're ranged as y'all are talking, you're kind of talking around it. What does this say to scale? That's why I brought up like the whole guerrilla warfare thing where you've got like 5 people hiding in the bushes and doing ambush
Yeah,
things,
no,
right?
those are the, yeah,
Okay.
huge amount of people.
So then here we're talking about scale. Where is the infantry? These guys are out in the open field, front lines, okay? Infantry, who are those people? They are the foot soldiers. They are the grunts. They are the expendables. They are the collateral damage. Fill in the blank. They are the many. Okay? And many infantry are needed because of the structure of war at the time. Yes. Would we do this now? Okay, everybody line up and stand and you shoot when I tell you to. Would we do that? No, it's suicide. Okay? And so here, infantry implies vast numbers. So you can think about scale of war there. This would help point to individual and collective. Okay? Write that down. All right? And staring face to face. Now, the word staring. What is staring?
It's like you kind of
You don't blink, you just kind of like just lean.
Okay, hold on. Is this a stare, Nicole?
No, that's it.
That's a glance. What's the difference?
You're locking.
One's long.
Yes, you lock eyes, and when you stare, it's for a significant amount of time versus, okay, that's not a stare, right? A stare, so they're staring face to face. Here we've got that proximity, okay?
Connect.
And there's a connection, right? What kind? What are they thinking? What are they feeling at that
I
point?
feel like sorry for each other.
Wow, am I
I doubt
do
it.
this?
How did
Like,
I get
Maybe
here?
they're just saying.
At the moment,
good
they were
luck.
probably like, bunch of
Do your work.
Right. It's me or him, right? But the idea is, guys, how much more difficult would it be to shoot someone down, looking them in the eye, versus tossing a hand grenade or biological mass weapons?
It's like in Shooting Stars when she doesn't look away from the guy when he has the gun to her.
Good. And for a soldier, like this anyway,
makes it personal.
Probably sharing their food.
This is
Because
probably
not
when
only,
he
because it's not that
thought.
you look at that person, it's that person looks at you.
This is probably when he thought about like the first stanza, like if we had met like,
Right.
before. It's like,
right, all this like flash of what could be, but what am I forced to do? Pull the trigger, okay? So it personalizes it. There's another emotional proximity. And yeah, I don't doubt that they are sharing fear. I don't doubt that at all. But I think, there's that recognition that I don't know you, but I'm going to try and kill you, and I know you're going to do the same for me, so 1, 2, 3, ready, go. Okay? And staring face to face. Then the next line, I shot at him as he at me and killed him in his place. When we first read this, we're like, whoa. It's very straightforward. It's very blunt. I shot at him as he at me and killed him in his place. I won. Or did I?
But he's still trying to kind of like justify because
Yes.
he was like, I shot at him as he shot at me.
Right. Exactly. Which is another thing they share in common. What else?
Could he also, when you said it like that, he could be wondering, like, why not me? Why didn't I die?
Right.
Did it have to?
Right. Why did I get there a split second earlier? Could have been me. Staring face to face, we were doing the same thing. I shot at him as he at me. I just happened to be able to kill him. Okay? What were you going to say?
Never mind.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So very blunt, very straightforward, nothing hidden here. This is where it gets a little murky. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough.
Yeah, he doesn't seem so.
Really? Is that clear to you?
No.
No.
It's very convoluted, isn't it?
It's just, I think he's just trying to justify some
Yeah.
he's like, oh, it's
Some-
clear, like obviously it makes sense.
Well, of course I shot him because he was my foe.
Sounds like something his higher ups told him.
Bingo. This sounds like something he's been told or convinced of, much like they would have in the public school, right? They would have grown up hearing this, okay? Or if not, because this is an infantryman, this is a simple man, this is one of the colloquial speakers, this is not one of those, rich white boys who'd have gone to a private school or whatever. This was the country dude, kind of like Drummer Hodge, okay? And he signed up because that's all he could. So yeah, somebody else had fed him this information. I shot him dead because he was my foe.
It's like he
Okay?
doesn't even have a
That
like
pause, he has
at
to
first,
think about it.
He's like, wait, why did I do it?
Right. I killed him in his place. I shot him dead because dash. What does that show?
He
hesitated.
paused.
It's his hesitation. It's the speaker's hesitation. Okay, good. What else?
Could this time with Drummer Hodge, like the guy he killed, I don't know.
Well, how do you mean? Explain more. I don't see where you're going yet.
It's just like the two poems sort of tie in together. Like this shows this side of the guy who survived, and the other one shows the side of the guy who didn't survive. And it shows how they're both dead.
They both die in a way, okay? If you wanted to talk about those two Hardys on one side of the coin and put, you could maybe do shooting stars, dulce with that one, yeah? Or having a different writer, okay? I wouldn't say that Hardy did that purposefully. We don't know that. Sometimes they'll do like a response poem. This is not the case, okay? But you could say, having studied both, we can draw parallels between them, blah, 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 and that would be fine. All right? Shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough. What grammatically do we have happening there? I'm about to break out a fancy term. What grammatically do we have happening there? Look at the words that are here.
Oh, it's like. I don't know.
Well, go,
It's bad
just say
It's
it.
like normally when there's the 2 points, it's like a list. It's like the explanation.
And
or
here
something.
we have what? What follows that colon?
It's like the same thing.
Which he just said, okay? Do y'all remember the word chiasmus?
Yeah. I remember.
Okay, C-H-I-S-M-U-S, chiasmus. Does anybody remember what it is? If you've got your computer, you can pull it up real fast. What is that?
C-H-A-I-S.
It's a figure of speech in which two or more clauses are related to each other through a reversal of structures.
Yep. Okay, say that one more time.
It's
Grammatical structure in which,
a figure of speech in which two or more clauses are related to each other through a reversal of structures.
okay? Take a look at what's going on here, okay? Literally, like in math, this would be A plus B equals C equals B plus A. Does that make sense? Okay, so this part is the same, but this part, the variables are just reversed. Does that make sense? Okay, so you've got, because he was my foe of course he was. Okay, so here, do you see that? Do you see how it's almost reversed? Because he was my foe of course he was. Does that, you've got foe on one side, because on the other, and the verb was, here is at the end, here is kind of in the middle. So you have this sort of reversal of the structure. I shot him dead because he was my foe. My foe, of course he was. So you've got, in other words, foe becomes the C in the equation, right? Do you see that? It's the fulcrum. I know I'm mixing math and science right now, but You get my point, okay? That foe is in the center. So how does that make the logic sound? I'm giving you a purpose right now for this structure. What's the purpose of that structure?
You know, when you say two words that mean the exact same thing, you know, he's doing that. He's saying the same thing twice because he doesn't have anything else to say to justify it.
Good. It shows his hesitation. It shows his doubt. His guilt, somebody mentioned
He's
earlier.
trying to talk and come up with stuff, but he can't.
Because that's just what they told him to do, but he doesn't actually have an explanation why they told
Yeah, he
him.
just listened to it.
Yes, very good. Okay, so if you look at that structurally, the repetition of the same idea, just kind of in a different order, then you've got, it shows his doubt, his hesitation, his guilt, his attempt to justify. Okay, but are we convinced? No, we're not. Is he?
Okay.
I don't think so either. Okay.
It's like he's trying to like convince himself when he says that's clear enough.
Yeah, because who told him that was clear enough?
The people who are charged.
Yes. But then we have this although, which is enjammed to the next stanza.
It's like he's almost kind of come up like, oh yeah, that's clear enough. I could see that. Although, wait, there's this other thought.
Or there could be speech we're missing.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they cut him off because
Yeah, his voice is cut. Ooh, I like that. Okay, the idea that his voice is cut off, good.
Like that's his doubt creeping in.
Mhm.
He cuts it off as he goes on.
Very good. Then he gives this man a story. And whose story is it? His own. This is his own story. So we learn a little bit more about the speaker himself. What gives that away? What tells you this is his story? Point to the text.
just as
Just as I. Okay? He thought he'd list meaning enlist, okay? He thought he'd list perhaps offhand like. What does it mean to do something offhand like?
You're kind of like unsure when.
On a whim, yes. I don't know how you would express in an essay. So, I mean, yeah, you're right.
Maybe just got caught up in the hype around the war.
Or, I mean, is it? No other reason why. Was it hype that sent him?
Didn't have anything better to do.
He didn't have anything better to do, and he didn't have any money.
Didn't have any reason.
Okay? He didn't go for glory. He didn't go for God. He didn't go for
I
country.
guess he went in trying to find meaning, but
Maybe.
he left worse than he went.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Does this poem, can this like juxtapose like other poems? Because the other poems, there were like full patriotism, and this one, so.
Yes,
It shows the other side.
it does. It shows the other side. Okay? So he gives him a history. He gives this man an identity. Oh, big idea. Identity? Yes. He gives him an identity because, okay, here's kind of an obvious question. The man he killed, I shot at him and killed him. I shot him. He thought, why all this he and him? Don't avoid the
It's
obvious.
Distance.
Yes?
He doesn't.
And he doesn't know the guy.
Doesn't know his name. He doesn't know the man's name. If the first and the fifth stanza had happened, would he?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So keep it simple. Look at the pronouns here. Okay. And yes, they lack identity. But in doing so, that could also be anybody, right?
Generic.
That could be. It's generic. Good. That could be the collective then. He thought he'd list perhaps offhand like just as I. There's an admission. There's an admission right there on the part of our speaker. I signed up. Why? Because I was out of work. Had sold his traps. What does that mean?
I mean, he couldn't be an actual family truck.
Could be.
Or maybe just his belongings.
His belongings, his gear, his stuff. Okay?
Maybe just to add on to how badly he needed the money, so that's why he went in.
Good, okay? Not just was I out of work, but I had sold what I had, okay? That, I think, ups the level of desperation. Nice.
And maybe that could be more of a justification, because since he was in such dire need, that's why he was in that position in the first place.
Good, good. And then we get that no other reason why. That's really blunt, folks. That's really blunt as far as Hardy saying, this type of man does not sign up looking for glory, going for the nationalism or the patriotic cause of sorts, okay? These guys were not seeking any of that. No other reason why. And then, what's the tone of this, yes, quaint and curious war is? Really? It's incredibly ironic and very, very sarcastic. So we could pair that with,
Distance injury.
well, I was saying, what other poem?
Oh,
Sarcasm, irony, the old lie.
Dolce.
Dulce, okay? Here it's a bit more subtle, but okay, so let's think about what quaint means. What does quaint mean?
It's like small and nice.
It would kind of remind me of that old ancient
Yeah.
inn. Is war quaint? Okay, so if it's small, familiar, comfortable, cozy, warm, in essence, then war is
The complete opposite.
the very opposite. It is grand scale. It is not warm and fuzzy at all. It is not a place that you feel comfortable. It is not a place where you know someone's name.
And the fact that the sentence is, there's an exclamation point.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, it stands out even more. So maybe that could be even more like, oh, like in your face. Like
Right.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right, good. Curious.
Probably,
Go ahead.
to these generals who are arranging them, it's probably like a quaint and curious little thing to them.
What do they mean? What does he mean by curious? If we say, oh, well, that's curious, what do we
It's like
mean?
interesting, but not.
Interesting.
It's like a really casual.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
positive though.
Right. I like that. It's a casual interest because maybe I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's curious. I'm not really sure if I like it, but that's curious in an interesting, maybe strange
Because you can't
sort
say
of
it's
way.
bad or like nice, but you're just gonna say that.
Okay? And so when we think about tone here, this is definitely irony. It's very sarcastic because war is not either of those things. And we do not believe that Hardy thinks that either. Okay? It's so quaint and curious that here's what you do. It's mocking almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
You shoot a fellow down. You treat where any bar is, or help to half a crown. That's how quaint and curious war is. That I would shoot somebody down that I would otherwise sit down and engage with and maybe even help out because he needed help. Instead, what do I have to do?
Kill him.
Kill him, shoot him down. A fellow, let's look at that word.
That's a friend and acquaintance.
Who are your fellows? Yes. Your fellows are your friends, your acquaintances. Are your fellows people you don't know?
No.
No.
Someone really close to me.
Okay? Somebody much, much closer. And so here, this fits very nicely with what? The idea of what? You shoot a fellow down. Fellow what? Fill in the blank. What do we normally accompany that with?
Friend.
Fellow friend?
Fellow classmate, like.
Fellow classmate? Now you're
Fellow
saying we're
soldier.
fellow soldier, fellow man, fellow neighbor. Okay, say again. Fellow human. Thank you. Okay? Yes, it's somebody with whom you share something in common. Okay? And the idea is that you recognize it. My fellow teachers, my fellow colleagues. All right? Generally speaking, we are fellows with people that have the same mindset, right? So what does that do then for the frame? The things that we've just talked about.
It brings them closer together because they have these same interests. So like you could see them sitting down
Good,
together.
good. Were it not for having been ranged, okay, and told what to do and what to believe. Good.
Can you say, not for the frame, but just for the way it was said, like, oh, you shoot him down, all of a sudden it's like, okay, whereas I could be sitting with him at a bar, it's such a drastic thing, like, you could be sitting with him at a bar, but there's no other choice, instead you just kill him. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
That
Big
it's.
opposites.
I see what you're saying. They seem like polar opposites.
Yeah.
And they are. And I think that's his point. Okay? That here we would sit down, we would have a drink, we would know each other, we would, share something. Here all we're sharing is a momentary stare and an exchange of bullets. Okay? So I just happened to be a better shot. Because he fired, didn't he?
Yeah.
He fired. He fired at me. He shot at me. I just happened to have the better aim. So happenstance, in other words. Okay? Any other comments, queries? Yes?
When he says I shot at him and he at me, I guess when he shot, it showed that he didn't care anymore. And that's
How?
Because if you're willing to pull a trigger on someone, and that's when it says I killed him in his place.
Mhm.
Those
Because
are-
what did he care about more?
His
The
life.
survival.
His own survival. Okay. Do we blame him for that?
No.
No. In fact, I think we pity him. Our pathos. We feel for this guy. We feel sorry for this guy because would any of us want to be in his place?
No.
And he has his actual life, but like he's living it with all this guilt.
Yes.
So what
He's
kind of a
carrying
life is that?
quite a burden, indeed. Okay. Yeah. That Hemingway book. Yeah, that one. Thank you. Yes. Yes, carrying lots of guilt around. Okay. Yeah, this is pre-war, pre-World War I anyway, so it's pre-post generation, or lost generation, but yeah, I get your idea.
This
Mhm.
might not be anything, but like half a crown shows like setting. Crown.
Yes, okay. Time period, because it's a monetary unit, okay? A monetary unit would also speak, you could go back to that old ancient inn and the nipperkin and the half a crown and all those things, all those things point to place. All those things point to time and setting. Very good.
And those are within the frame.
Yes.
Because the other one's in the first stanza and then this one's in the last.
Good. Yeah.
How much is that?
I don't know.
Because
Go ahead.
like I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's a significant amount or anything, but this man that he killed went to war because he needed money, and he's kind of saying like, okay, he could have just walked into this bar and become
Mhm.
friends with me, and I could have given him some money too.
Mhm. So half a crown for someone. Look at it this way. Okay, maybe we don't know how much it is.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's also in a financially destitute situation, for me to offer even half a crown, what does that say? Okay?
Yeah.
That is helping a fellow. All
It
right?
just kind of shows like he's a good, kind person who would do
Yes.
this for another.
Yes.
He's
Even
not
though-
a killer.
That's true. That's good. I like that. The idea that I would give him something even though I don't have very much. I am not a killer.
He's not a bad person.
I'm not a bad person. Good. Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
The last stanza, why? You know how in every stanza it closes the quotation marks? No, it doesn't close.
It
Why-
doesn't close,
why
but here
would-
it does. The story is finished. The story is finished. If you look,
Like in books, when they start a new paragraph,
Yeah.
they don't close it. They just
yeah, it's very similar. It's kind of, the other part is maybe open-ended, and this is final. The story is done. Something else?
Yeah, talking about before, I feel like that could kind of, he's saying, I'm not a bad person. That's kind of like his final justification for
Mhm.
it. Like, he does know that he's not a bad person. So, even if he can't really totally justify it, at least he's got
You have
that.
no choice.
I think I see what you're saying. I think this is always going to be there. That burden is always going to be there. But in the last stanza, we get that kind of thing you were talking about. The it is what it is.
Yeah.
And the best I can do is know that this is not necessarily me. Okay? That the help with half a crown is me. The treat where any bar is me. And I have to live with it. Here's memory. Memory. Add that to your big idea. Memory. The role of memory. Clearly haunted. He is haunted by this memory because he can still see them. Very good. What else?
Also, like, I feel like in the fourth stanza, when there's like all those dashes, it's like he's trying to find a better reason for why he did it.
Yes.
Because he feels like this is not a good reason enough, but he just can't.
Yes. Very good. The further hesitation as indicated by the punctuation. Definitely, I'm looking for something more, but I just can't find it. An explanation, that is. Good. Any other questions, queries?
So when I talk about how the speaker talks about himself in a third person, where would that go under? Like, is that a literary device?
It could be under many things. It could be under voice. Okay. You could look at it in talking about myself in the third person, proximity and distance. Okay. Any other ideas? I think those are the two biggies. Okay. Yes, that is a device. Talking about oneself in the third person.
Okay, so I can mention it in like a lot of places.
Yes, in a lot of different places.
But
You
for
can.
example, like when you write the paper two, and you want to mention it in this one because it ties to what the question is talking about, but in the other one it has like there's nothing related to it. Like how would you write it?
Then what would the question be?
No, I mean like okay, maybe it says something about I don't know location and the tens shows.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
But then the other one doesn't have anything.
If we got like a title, like you're comparing the titles of sorts. In other words, this one, the third person used for one thing, whereas in a different,
There's nothing there.
it's okay. You can juxtapose. It's fine. As long as you talk about, if your overall purpose is to say the titles in both of these poems are significant, that's fine. They don't have to be significant for the same reason.
Okay, so you can just try and say like, I don't know, maybe see what tense it is in and try and see what it does.
Okay? So, turn off the recording. Y'all were recorded. Y'all realize that?